Okay, Madam Secretary, would you like to take the roll, please?
I sure would. How come we lost somebody? Okay, I'll call the roll slow. Director Anderson,
Here.
Director Buchanan,
Here.
Director Colson, Director DeWitt,
Here.
Director Durante,
Here.
Director Frega, Director Fuentes, Director Higgins,
Here.
Director Hobson,
Here.
Director Lewis,
Here.
Director McAllis,
Here.
Director Melvin,
Here.
Director Pang, Director Ross,
Here.
Director Troiani,
Here.
Chairman Dillard.
Here. And Madam Secretary, I'll recognize and we'll add Director Fuentes in a few minutes when he walks back into the room, but he's been here all morning and he just stepped out for a second.
Okay, then I'll say we have a quorum of 10 present. I'm sorry, we have a quorum of 15 present, 5 of which are participating via phone, having completed the requisite paperwork, and 1 absent.
Great, thank you. In fact, here he comes in the room right now. So the Secretary will add Phil Fuentes to the roll call.
Very good.
All right. The first item of business is item 3A on our agenda, and that's the approval of the minutes from the meeting held on December 15th, 2015, or is that 2016? It's got to be 2016. December 15th, 2016. Any questions, additions, anything on that? If not, can I have a motion and a second? Director Hobson moves we approve the minutes from our December meeting, seconded by Director Colson. Is there
Baseline?
Yeah, take a roll call so that we've got a baseline roll call, Madam
I know
Secretary.
you so well.
Thank you.
Director Anderson,
Yes.
Director Buchanan,
Yes.
Director Colson,
Yes.
Director DeWitt,
Yes.
Director Durante,
Yes.
Director Frega, Director Fuentes,
Yes.
Director Higgins,
Yes.
Director Hobson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
Director McAllis,
Aye.
Director Melvin,
Yes.
Director Ross,
Yes.
Director Troiani,
Yes.
Chairman Dillard.
Yes.
We have 15 ayes and 1 absent.
Great. So the minutes are approved from our December meeting. The fourth item is normally the public comments segment of the meeting. There are no scheduled speakers for today. So we'll move on to item 5, which is normally Leanne Redden's report as our executive director. Leanne is down, and if you know Leanne, she has to be really feeling under the weather not to be here, and she's been sort of hobbling on one leg for the last couple of days. So Leanne, if you're listening, which you probably are, we miss you, and get well soon. And Nadine, if you would, give a skeletal report for Leanne today. Thanks.
I'm very happy to fill in. I was going to try to pull off an Aussie accent, but then I thought that might be a bad idea. So too early, too wrong. So I'm just going to mimic Leanne and say we'll start where we always start, with the state delinquency figures. The state currently owes the RTA $387.7 million. In 2016, the cost of short-term borrowing to support the state's delinquency was $2.9 million. The cost for 2017 so far is already $187,363.
Ouch.
And here's a state budget update for you. As the chairman mentioned earlier, we did receive a budget address by Governor Ronner yesterday. The 100th Illinois General Assembly commenced in January, and while the Department of Transportation continues to operate under an approved budget through June of 2017, much of the state operations are proceeding without an approved budget, as the temporary budget that was approved last June expired at the end of December. A series of 14 Senate revenue, budget, and reform bills have been filed as a result of negotiations between Democrats and Republicans in the Senate, with the hopes of coming to a grand bargain solution to the ongoing budget impasse. Included in those negotiated bills is a revenue package that would raise the state's income tax to 4.99%, as well as create a new tax on some limited services. As of yet, no vote has taken place on the majority of those bills, and negotiations continue on all aspects of the grand bargain agreement. Yesterday, again, the governor delivered his annual state budget address and produced his proposed annual budget. You have in front of you a list of number of the legislative bills the RTA will be monitoring this session. We will be updating the list on an ongoing basis. Jeremy normally would give you a little bit more detail on that, but I think you have everything you need in that report. He's down in Springfield today. House Bill 3004 was filed last week by Representative Riley of the 38th District. The bill is the RTA short-term borrowing initiative, which will allow the RTA extended short-term borrowing authority and greater flexibility when borrowing to pay the service boards to cover the state's delinquent payments. Now for a federal update. On January 20th, as we all know, President Donald Trump and Vice President Michael Pence were sworn into office. We expect that national infrastructure spending proposals to be introduced in the spring, with possible action coming in the fall. On January 31st, Elaine Chao was confirmed to become the 18th United States Secretary of Transportation by a vote of 93-6. She's currently still putting her team together, but we're trying to get some meetings scheduled for next month when we are in D.C. for the APTA Legislative Conference. On January 24th, Senate Democrats released a proposal to begin addressing the nation's infrastructure needs with a $1 trillion price tag. The blueprint to rebuild America includes $180 billion for rail and bus systems. Other aspects of the proposal are listed on the slide. At the same time, however, we've been hearing rumors there might be cuts to the fiscal year 17 FAST Act levels, which could mean cuts most likely to the capital investment grants. Our DC team and APTA staffers have spoken to staffers on several committees, including appropriations and tax writing committees, but no one will confirm any such legislation is being drafted. In an effort to be ready for anything, we're contacting our congressional delegation to encourage keeping levels as originally proposed. We would like to have your help as well, board members. We'll ask Audrey to send out a draft letter that we'd like to send to the delegation along with other background documents. If you could reach out to them, we would really appreciate it. Next, we're excited to announce the RTA's 2017 buying plan. The plan is basically a list of services and goods that we intend to solicit starting in 2017 and beyond. We really want to engage the business community in the opportunities available here at the RTA. We don't necessarily buy at the highest dollar levels like the service boards or larger agencies, but that often presents really great opportunities for smaller businesses. We hope that by publicizing early what we plan to buy, businesses can do everything that it takes to be ready to bid on relevant solicitations when they're issued. I'd like to start by providing a really brief synopsis of the services and goods we know we intend to purchase during the next year or two, and invite all interested parties to visit the RTA website to view the full buying plan. So, some of the things that we plan to purchase, I think one of the really big ticket items would be the new Enterprise Resource Planning System, our new ERP system. Probably in late 2017, we think that's going to happen. We're also going to require implementation assistance and likely long-term maintenance of the new system once it is purchased. Other IT purchases will include disaster recovery services, investment tracking software purchases, technology infrastructure monitoring, and intranet website redesign. Other department purchases include, hopefully we're going to be putting together an employee benefits portal. We need a digital media management solution. We will be soliciting very shortly bond and disclosure counsel to assist with our financings. Audio and Braille transcription services, American Sign Language interpretation, messenger services, security guard services, printing, marketing, urban planning consulting services, design and installation of interagency signage, event planning services, graphic design, and I think I already mentioned security services. So please, we ask all businesses, let everyone know that you think could be interested, that they should check the RTA website, that they should sign up for our new e-bid system, which is our new electronic procurement system, so that they can be ready to receive those solicitations when they're issued. As you know, just a couple more things. The state statute calls for us to update our strategic plan every 5 years. 2017 is that time. At the March board meeting, we will have a workshop with you to present some of the research findings that will be framing the plan, and to gain your feedback and input as we continue to develop the plan throughout the year. Did you want to say anything more about that? No. Staff has been working in coordination with the service boards and CMAP on the foundational research and technical work, and the final plan will be presented for board consideration in January 2018. And finally, I would like to give a very special thank you to Director J.D. Ross for his inspirational blog post on Black History Month. If you haven't seen it yet, please do check it out. Any questions?
And JD, I know you're on the phone. I was impressed you even did a lot of your own research, but that was a wonderful piece, and it was really, really well received. So, Director Ross, thank you very much. Make us very proud.
Thank you, and I had a lot of assistance from Susan, so I want to thank her for editing also.
It was great, just outstanding. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam Hossie, yes, Director Hobson.
I did have a question on the short-term borrowing to cover the state shortfall. Right now, we're at $387 million that we're covering, and I believe our limit's $400 million. I know that there's always a legislative effort going on, but we're bumping up against that $400 million ceiling. Are we doing anything to get that ceiling expanded?
So it's a bit misleading. Let me explain. The state does owe us that much. It's a combination of ASA and AFA, which is the debt service subsidies, as well as PTF. But keep in mind that we keep the service boards about 4 months behind. In other words, even though the state owes us all of that, we haven't borrowed all of that because the service boards get their PTF, Public Transportation Fund monies, about 4 months behind. Now, the state has pushed us out about 8 months now. We are still using the borrowing to keep them about 4 months. So, in other words, we still have capacity. We have about 150 million capacity of unused DP, but that's because we're stretching it out. You know, and that's not new. We've always kept the service boards at about that amount, so that's not new. And we've also made them aware that we've had a lot of conversations on this because you're right. You know, you see that and you're like 387. Oh no, what are we going to do? But the reality is that because we've always paid 4 to 6 months late on the PTF, so we're stretching that out. So we still have capacity, and that we can tap into should we need it. That said, though, the state is now about 8 to 9 months out, so that's way too long. That's longer than it's been. But we're like a buffer for the service board, so we use our short-term borrowing. So this particular short-term borrowing bill does not increase our capacity in any way. It's still the $400 million. What we're trying to do, though, is rather than have to renew it every 2 years, which is something that the rating agencies will cite, like, are you going to receive it? Well, the fact is we've been getting it, I think, 5 times. I think it's been like 8, 10 years. And so what we are trying to do is make it a permanent increase to the $400 million, but not increase it.
Well, clearly in this case, to solve the problem, the root cause is getting the state to pay us on time.
Correct.
But this body here is not going to be able to affect that. So what we have to monitor is our ability to bridge between the state and the service boards.
Correct.
Perhaps a useful item on that slide would be our open borrowing capacity so that we as board members know that, as you just pointed out, because of the good juggling act that you're doing and cash flowing to the agencies, we still have 150 million of capacity on that. But just seeing that slide doesn't indicate that, and it looks like we may be bumping up against. So maybe open borrowing capacity would be a good number to put on that slide as well.
We will add that. Good idea.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Anything else on the executive director's report? If not, we will move on, and it's go to item 6, which is our quarterly update on the activities of the RTA Transit Access Citizens Advisory Board, and Greg Pullman, our longtime friend. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Got to make his leash longer because he tries to pull the podium. Good morning, Chairman, Diller, directors, RTA staff, and public. I'm here to give an overview of our last meeting of the advisory board, which was on January 17th, 2017. We had an overview from Executive Director Leanne Redding on last year's activities and brief mention of what was going to happen in the upcoming year. I'm not going to go into any great detail on that. I'm just going to mention a few highlights because it was pretty much the same report that she presented to all of you in your December meeting. However, I would like to mention that she did say that one of the successes was building collaborations with the 3 service boards, which has been very successful, developing new partnerships with entities such as Amtrak, working on the Union Station project. She did also mention to us that RTA has a AAA bond rating. That's unusual in the state of Illinois. She said that they were able to achieve all of these goals because of planning and that it followed the regional strategic plan. The advisory board indicated to her that they would like to once again be involved in the upcoming development of the new 5-year strategic plan. A couple other items that came up during her discussion were 2 issues that the advisory board will be taking under consideration for further discussion is how rideshare services can be better utilized and become a working partner in paratransit and other transit services throughout the region. We do understand that there are some issues with accessibility, but we will work through those items and see how a partnership can be developed. Another item that we discussed with her that we will be having on as agenda items is the further development of interactive wayfinding signage and wayfinding using technology throughout the regional system to better accommodate not only people with disabilities but other individuals, because many people live and die on your cell phone. So if you can interact with wayfinding through the electronics, it would be very helpful to the public in general. Our next item that we discussed was an update from Ann Lefevre from the ADA certification division, and gave us an update on the eligibility review board. They are moving forward in finding individuals from the community to be part of the eligibility review board. They are now interviewing individuals. They also are working on an intergovernment arrangement with the Mayor's Office for People with Disabilities. As soon as those 2 things are in place, they will reconstitute the 3-member board, which is made up of an RTA staff, I do believe from your legal department, someone from MOPD staff, and a member of the community. And these individuals will rotate on and off the committee. Our final presenter was Doug Anderson from the Budget Office, who discussed with us the 2017 budget. He indicated that the 3 service boards had several meetings to negotiate so that to to make sure that funding is equitably spread throughout the 3 service boards. And he indicated that PACE, CTA will not have fare hikes. And as indicated earlier in your meeting, or in one of your subcommittee meetings, the Metro will be increasing their fares to meet some of their capital needs. Our next meeting of our advisory board is on April 17th, and that's the end of my presentation. If there's any questions, I'm here.
Do you have any questions for Greg? Just one caveat to you. Please watch very carefully proposed cuts in Springfield to ADA paratransit. I know there was talk yesterday that they're looking at making some cuts to PACE's ADA paratransit money, and just watch that very carefully as a constituency for us, and kind of coordinate and stay in touch with us if you would, Greg.
Thank you, Dirk.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. It's always
Thank
good.
you.
It's always great to have you here, and thank you so much for the time you put into this. We really appreciate it. All right, number 7 on the agenda is the approval of a consent item, or consent items as they appear on the agenda. 7A it's kind of shoved over from our financial committee, and that's the certifying the financial results of the fourth quarter of 2016. B?
Mr. Chairman, we need the presentation up. There we go. Okay,
you go.
good. Okay, so quickly we'll review the year-to-date financial results through the fourth quarter of 2016. And this is what you will be certifying at the conclusion. There's a comprehensive report in your packets that was distributed earlier. The service board's year-to-date financial results for the fourth quarter were satisfactory. Operating revenue had been negatively impacted by unfavorable ridership, but a strong expense performance led by low fuel costs has driven favorable to budget operating deficits for each of the service boards. At the end of the presentation, I'll be recommending that the board certify the results of each of the operations for the service boards and the region as a whole in substantial accordance with the adopted 2016 budget. Remember that this is based on unaudited results, and should the audited results differ significantly, we will inform the board. So during the fourth quarter, Chicago area employment decreased by about 23,000 jobs, and the workforce shrank by about 11,000. As a result, the regional unemployment rate increased by 0.3 percentage points to 5.9%. The level still lags the national rate by 4.7%. Year-to-date system ridership was 3.9% lower than budget through the fourth quarter. As shown by the orange bars on the chart, system ridership continues to show a consistent decline compared to 2015. We did show a slight year-over-year ridership increase in November with the Cubs rally, but as we saw in the quarterly performance report presentation, Chicago ridership performance ranked 4 out of 10 major transit systems, so they're all suffering ridership loss. Looking at it a little bit closer, CTA year-to-date ridership was 4.1% under budget, highlighted in red, and 3.5% lower than 2015. Bus ridership has increased by 5.6%, and rail ridership is down 1.3% from 2015. Metro ridership was 1.7 unfavorable to budget as customers continue to respond to the fare increases and again sustained lower gas prices. PACE suburban ridership, highlighted in red, finished the quarter 6.1% unfavorable to budget and 5.8% lower than 2015. Regional ADA paratransit ridership was down 1.3% compared to prior year, which was 7.4% unfavorable to PACE's budgeted growth of 5%. Let's look at system operating revenue. So that was $11.3 million, or 1% unfavorable to budget, again due to the unfavorable ridership, but also due to 49% lower level of state reduced fare funding provided by the state stopgap budget bill, As Chairman Dillard pointed out earlier, we're watching very closely proposals to reduce or eliminate the reduced fare reimbursement, and again also eliminate the ADA 8.5 million subsidy. But what's happening here is that they're reporting it at this time, they're accruing it at 1/2 the service board, so that is affecting the operating revenue. Pace Suburban Service operating revenue was $5.8 million or 9.5% unfavorable to budget, highlighted in red again due to the fare revenue shortfalls and lower state reduced fare funding. ADA Paratransit operating revenue was $2.1 million or 14.1% unfavorable, also highlighted in red, and again for the same reasons, shortfalls in fare revenue, but also Medicaid reimbursements and reimbursements for RTA certification trips. Usually that lags behind. We do get it, but it's more of a timing difference. Looking at the public funding section of the dashboard, it shows favorable to budget results due to strong real estate transfer tax performance, but sales tax growth has been lethargic in recent months. Of the last 12 months sales tax results, none have exceeded 4% growth, and 5 months have actually declined from prior year. Year-to-date growth through October is up about 1.1% compared to prior year, but still down 0.5% compared to budget. We looked at a little bit of where one of our analysts, Martin, did some analysis to look at where sales tax growth is lagging, and an area that's definitely, at least in part to blame, are vehicle sales. We're seeing that. We're also showing department store sales a little bit, weaker versus 2015. That may be more because of online sales, but those two are the bigger contributing areas. We'll continue to monitor monthly results as they are received from the state. Okay, some brighter news, right? System-wide, we're going to look at that. Yeah, system-wide operating expenses through December were $62.9 million or 2.4% favorable to budget, with each service board reporting favorable results for the year to date. A quick note at the fuel slide shows that substantial fuel savings relative to budget continue to be realized by each of the service boards, particularly at PACE, which uses a flow-to-market purchasing strategy. Fuel savings as a whole totaled $24.6 million, or more than 1/3 of the favorable expense variance. PACE Suburban Service had a 7.5% favorable to budget expense performance, highlighted in light blue, driven primarily by fuel and administration savings. PACE ADA had a 9.3% favorable expense performance, driven by lower purchase transportation, fuel, and administrative expenses. When you look at this at a regional level, favorable operating expenses and public funding more than offset unfavorable operating revenue, producing year-to-date net result, which was $64.6 million, favorable to budget. PACE and ADA Paratransit had favorable net results in excess of 3%, which is why it's highlighted in blue, again due to good expense performance. Let's look at recovery ratios. So this is an area that we've been watching very closely. The recovery ratio of 51.2% was 0.9 percentage points favorable to budget through the fourth quarter. Metro's recovery ratio was favorable to budget, while CTA PACE and ADA Paratransit were each slightly unfavorable. On the left, you see the fare recovery ratio of 35.8, which is pure or only passenger fare revenue, and it declined 1.8 percentage points from the third quarter, but this is typical due to seasonal kind of variations. When you add in the ancillary service board revenue, the recovery ratio increases to 42.2% through December, so that's labeled as all revenue. This also declined from the third quarter about 1.8 percentage points. Focusing on the certification of year-to-date financial results through the fourth quarter, this slide displays the variances at each of the service boards' operating deficit from budget. The operating deficit is calculated by subtracting operating expenses from operating revenue and does not consider public funding results. Each service board had a favorable variance in the operating deficit. Metro, PACE, and ADA Paratransit's favorable variances all exceeded 3%. The combined regional operating deficit was 51.6 million, or 3.4% favorable. I recommend that the results of the operations of each service board and the region taken as a whole be found in substantial accordance with the adopted budget based on the year-to-date financial results through the fourth quarter of 2016. That concludes my remarks. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Director Melvin.
Hey, B, do you have any estimate of how much money we don't recognize or don't get from sales tax revenue because of online business?
Not in this role here, but in my prior role at the City of Chicago, where they were pushing very hard to look at federal internet sales tax legislation. As you know, we collect from all the brick and mortar stores within the state of Illinois, and certainly Amazon and some of them have started collecting. But at that time, and this is 8 years ago, 6 years ago, they were estimating that as much as 23 or 25%, something like that, we were losing in sales tax revenue to online sales. But that's an estimate, and it's old, and who knows.
And so the only way people pay now is there's some estimate on your state taxes, right? You sort of have to do that.
Well, as you know, they're supposed to report large purchases and all of that. It's kind of an honor system.
Thank you.
Dr. Hobson, you have a question? Okay. All right. So if there are no further questions, we need a motion to adopt the quarterly financial reports in a second. Moved by Director Fuentes, seconded by Director Melvin, that the resolution 7A on our fourth quarter reports of 2016 be adopted. Is there leave for the attendance roll call? Seeing no objection, leave is granted.
15 ayes and 1 absent.
Perfect. Thank you, Audrey. Next is item 8, and that's the approval of, and these are in your packets, the approval of a contract and procurement items, as there's 2 of them, as they appear on your agenda. The first is an ordinance authorizing a contract for the very busy Jefferson Park transit-oriented development plan. Jefferson Park is a major transit stop of ours. And 8B on the agenda is the ordinance authorizing a contract amendment for the RTA Transit Benefit Program. Are there any questions of the staff for that? Yes, Blake.
I actually had some questions prior to this meeting that staff answered, but the answers were so interesting that I did want to share them with this group. I had asked about transit-oriented development and how many projects that we've done. And staff reported back that from 2006 through 2015, the RTA has partnered with municipalities to complete 33 different transit-oriented development programs. And out of those, 95% have begun to move forward with the successful completion of that transit-oriented development. I was very impressed with that, and to me it seems like a very good investment, so I wholeheartedly support 8A.
Thank you. No, transit-oriented developments are critical. They're not only helpful here, but I just watched them nationwide, and it's amazing to watch the transformation. I call them before and after pictures of what these surrounding neighborhoods, including the business community, look like, and it's amazing. And I know it's a cumbersome process for the staff, not only here, but at the service boards. But not only does it pay economic dividends, the beautification of these neighborhoods, what they physically look like is amazing. So, any other questions? Yeah,
I had one also on 8B, and perhaps B can supplement here. Really, 8B, while it's listed as an expense, is not. It's more acting as a bridge loan, because while we're approving an expenditure today, we actually get revenue back from the participating employers. So there is an offsetting revenue item in the budget for that. Did I state that well enough, B, or would you clarify?
that, it's actually an ordinance in Michael Vanderkeek's area, but you're right, it makes a slight revenue income, but you're right, it's promoted to encourage employers to actually promote transit and result in tax savings. So it actually doesn't lose any money. It makes a little bit of money, and that's actually it's your item. I'm sorry about that.
Yep, that's correct. It's basically
So
revenue
essentially,
neutral.
it's a wash. It's
It
a
is,
wash.
it
for
is.
us. Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
And this program,
Sorry for the confusion.
you know, the Congress took it up, and every now and then the Congress does astonish me in a good way. But the program is such a great program, especially if you ride every day. The benefits to the actual rider are magnificent, and we had some significant help from members of our congressional delegation, including Congressman Roscom, Congressman Holgren, Congressman Quigley, Lipinski, you know, and Senator Durbin. They really understood and get this, and it's just a great program, and really saves our riders an incredible, up to almost a third of the cost of their fares. It's, and everybody I see, you know, I say if your employer doesn't offer this, go ask them why, or call the RTA and figure out how you can take advantage of this, because it's a huge tax savings for our riders. So you want to make a motion, Blake, on that we approve ordinance 8A and 8B?
Absolutely.
Seconded by Director Melvin. Is there leave for the attendance roll call on this one? Seeing no objection, leave is granted, Madam Secretary.
15 ayes and 1 absent.
Thank you. Next is new business. Items under new business. Phil, Director Fuentes,
Yes.
you have something under new business you
Yes,
want to bring up?
I was hoping that, given the latest stories in the media, if we go through our social media sites and our website to say that we are not participating in any immigration checks. I think I've gotten a lot of phone calls about people concerned about, you know, we're using our system to help enforce immigration status checkpoints, which we are not, as far as I know. So I think it would be wise for us to social media or whatever sites we have to emphasize the fact that we are not participating in any of those programs. Thank you.
So Nadine, are there any questions or comments on that? You all have a senior staff meeting every Monday morning. So add this to your agenda, and if Leanne's listening, add this, just report back next month. I get where Director Fuentes is coming from in looking at B's report on ridership. I want to make sure that there's no one out there that is avoiding our system of ridership because they're afraid to use it. So, you know, I believe, you know, it may have ridership implications. And I see Susan,
I was just gonna
is
say
Madam
this-
Social Media.
Susan
driving
brought
up
this
to
to our
the,
attention yesterday.
I don't believe I've ever stood before this podium. This is humbling.
You look
Oh, no.
dignified and distinguished up there.
So,
Raised mic.
I have been in contact with Miss Redden via this little device. And no, she just sent me a note saying that she has spoken to President Carter about it, and they'd rather we not do anything. They have been very aggressive, as I hope you've all seen in the media. There is the danger always in repeating things like this to lead people to the wrong conclusion. And they have tried very hard. They've said, I spoke, just so you know, I reached out to the CTA social media people yesterday. They knew exactly what it was. This is part of a Homeland Security program that they started in 2014 that has to do with bag checks and totally different situations before any of this came up. So I hear you. I know exactly why you're saying that. I think everybody in this room is like-minded about it. But us echoing any of this right now might actually lead to people misunderstanding. But we all understand your thoughts. And if we thought that we could help in any way, I assure you we would have done it yesterday. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. As usual, Phil, the staff is a step ahead of us. Any other new business to come before the board? I want to remind you all that our next regularly scheduled meeting is Thursday, March 16th, my grandmother's birthday. Thursday, March 16th. It's hard to believe we're into March already, although pitchers and catchers are at spring training for baseball already. We are going to, in our executive session that we were looking at really was just the approval of a couple of minutes and not anything that was earth-shattering. So we'll hold our executive session, couple items from today, off to March until physically everybody is back from illness and other business endeavors that have them out today. Although I do appreciate you all calling in because our attendance is always stellar. So I appreciate that very much. So with that, any other items that need to come before the board today? If not, Director Durante moves that we stand adjourned until March 16th, seconded by Director Friga. And we are adjourned, and I'll see you on March 16th, if not before. Thank you.
Annie.